Website page speed is one of the easiest SEO wins for your website. And in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how I went from a 14-second page speed to having my website page speed sit around 1 second. Now, like most people who either start their own website business or go away and buy them like I teach, I learned a lot about SEO from day dot. I first started my website, one of my websites, which is a blog, and I learned how to optimize those articles, get them ranked, work well on my overall on-page SEO, off-page SEO, and backlinking and all that sort of stuff, and even my site speed. So all until I discovered something else, and that was paid ads. I discovered how incredibly powerful they were for gaining sales and traffic for my e-commerce stores. And then I just became fixated on that. And through that journey, two things happened. One, I got insanely good at paid marketing, right? Digital marketing. And secondly, because of my fixation on this, I had less focus on SEO for my own websites. And then as my clients started to buy more and more content websites, where they're publishing content, they heavily rely on SEO. I decided to start flexing that SEO muscle of mine again and go all in on learning the best SEO strategies from some of the best SEOs online. One of which is Stephen Spencer, who has helped Tony Robbins with his SEO, Matt Diggity, who holds one of the largest SEO conferences on SEO, and then Brendan Tully, just to name a few. So from doing this, I discovered from multiple SEOs that site speeds, especially from a specialist like Brendan Tully, that optimizing your website for speed really is quite simple and a very easy win. In fact, if a client of mine buys a site that's slow to load, one of the first things we have them do is decrease their page speed. Now, after helping so many other people with this on their sites, I decided that I needed to take my 14-second page speed down because it was just not cutting it. So I made a goal, and my goal was to half that page speed, and the results turned out to be even better. So let me talk about the results of what I actually did. So here's how I decreased my page speed. Firstly, my hosting was terrible, and I had a basic plan ever since I really started the business. So upgrading from my original hosting through HostGator, who were notoriously slow, I upgraded to a VPS, which is a virtual private server with Cloudways. And whilst my monthly fee went up a few dollars, it was far more than worth it, because just from doing this alone, I achieved my goal. And we decreased my page speed from 14 seconds, to 7 seconds, which is a 50% decrease in page speed. And after sitting at that speed for a little while, I was very, very happy because I achieved my goal. However, for anyone who knows me, there's always more in the tank, and I wanted nothing short of excellence. So 17 seconds was great, but again, it still didn't really cut it. And that's when I decided to revamp my website and take it from a JavaScript-based theme to a CSS-based theme and have it highly optimized for speed. And after 2 weeks from doing this, from start to finish, the new version of the site was ready to go and all the bugs were ironed out. And from changing the theme from a heavier child theme on WordPress, which is heavier on JavaScript, to the Astra theme on WordPress using mostly CSS, my site speed went down to 2.5 seconds. This was great, right? Not only did I love the new version of the site, but it was just so much faster, and I just was so excited to put it into the site speed tools and see how fast it was loading. Getting 2.5 seconds is absolutely excellent. And I realized though that I had one last trick up my sleeve. And this one is Zoic Site Speed Accelerator tool. And I'd used their free version of this probably 6 months prior to doing all these other changes and updating the site's theme and hosting all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to plug it back in again to see if it could help me get one step further. And honestly, I didn't expect much because I'd done so much work to the website. So I had some doubts that this tool wouldn't move the needle too much. But the results were like I wanted, nothing short of excellent, which is, like I said, what I was striving for. Just by turning on the Site Speed Accelerator, the results that I achieved is actually halved my page speed. And it cut my page speed down from 2.2 seconds or 2.5 seconds to 1 second. So it's more than a 50% decrease in page speed and a better result than I achieved just from changing my hosts, which just amazed me. So how did these actually work? Like, why did each of these changes that I made actually work? Well, starting off with the hosting first, this was an easy win because when you host on a shared server, like I was on HostGator, it's with a company who had a slower server as well. But this also means that because it was shared, the server doesn't have enough capacity to load my website in a sufficient time frame because many other sites are sitting on that same server as well. Hence why having a VPS, virtual private server, with more storage and a faster host, plus it being certainly superior, their server, I achieve better results. And we also know that by changing the theme, right, from a slow loading theme, which was becoming outdated, over to a new faster loading theme, that would give the site the freedom to load so much faster as well. Updating that technology, updating that coding really helped. But the real question is, like, because those ones seem quite simple, but the real question is, how exactly does the Ezoic Site Speed Accelerator work, right? Because I was curious about this. So I decided to do some digging and found that there are so many things that this tool has going on in the background, even though you just flick the switch to turn it on. So the first thing the tool does is it optimizes your site loading using critical CSS, which prevents your site from jumping, they call it jumping, by not loading all different types of coding styles like HTML and JavaScript and all these different types of things. So it also removes any unused CSS on parts of the pages that the users are not seeing, right, when they're scrolling through the page, and minifies your site so it can load faster, which I thought was quite cool. And the same goes with HTML, where Ezoic will minify the HTML coding on your site where necessary to remove those unnecessary things like white space, attributes, comments, and any HTML characters that the site isn't using. Also, the site can load the least amount of things for it to be as operational and fast as possible for the user. You know, not loading those things that the user isn't actually seeing. And the same goes for images, right? This tool does resize your site's images depending on the screen size that the user is actually using, whether they're using a mobile, a desktop, or their iPad or something else. It minifies them, so the transfer time between the load and the quality of images stays the same and fast, right? So it keeps the quality of images, which is quite cool. Also, Ezoic has a site feature which they call lazy loading. And this is where, if a user scrolls halfway down your site or only goes to a certain depth on your page, the tool will only load those images up in the top half of the page or the parts of the page that the user will actually see, and not anything below that the user will not see. So I like this because why waste loading, all the images on a page when the user may not go away and view them anyway, and it can only cause a poorer user experience in doing so. So within each of those features in Ezoic, I could go behind the scenes and I could write up another whole article just based on those and how they actually work. But the main thing here is to understand the key components I outlined just here in talking with you above, that should help you get an idea of like what the Site Speed Accelerator can actually do for your site, which is quite cool. Personally, I believe there's some huge wins in these three options on how I decrease my site, like I mentioned. But the least expensive, in my opinion, would be going and changing your host. And if you just went away and did that, you can achieve some great results. And then the next one will be plugging your site into the Ezoic Site Speed Accelerator, as this is an easier option than going and doing a whole site redesign. Though, for a long-term play, updating your site is good, right? Like I said, that HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and coding can go out of date and it can start loading slower when everybody else online updates their sites to faster themes as well. So for a longer term play, certainly updating and revising your theme and your site really does help. But the quick and easy wins are hosting changing and the Site Speed Accelerator tool. So I hope you guys got a bunch of value for that. If you do have any questions, ask me your questions below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.